You may recognize this triple roller from one of my previous videos. I was going to rebuild it, but once I got it apart, decided that there was a little bit too much damage to invest in a full OEM rebuild. But I just could not bear recycling this because there's so much good steel still in this. So today I'm going to rebuild it for $5. And you may already know how I'm going to do such a cheap rebuild on this, and that is quite simply by using really cheap bearings. So the bearings that Vermeer used in this from the factory and that they sell as replacement parts are good quality Japanese bearings. They cost about $10 a piece, at least that's the best price I could find on them. And normally you have 2 bearings and 2 seals. Well, I am going to take the advice of a comment I saw on Facebook, which was to say, rather than recycling this, go ahead and rebuild it using 4 bearings. Instead of using 2 bearings and 2 seals, just use 4 bearings, because if you saw my previous video, you'd see that this one was too worn to accept a new seal anyway. So these bearings are Chinese bearings. I would bet you $1,000 that these are not as good as the OEM Japanese bearings. I just don't think there's any way they could be. The seals in particular to me seem more like a hard plastic rather than a hard rubber. But these are $1 a piece. And so I bought 10 of them, a 10 pack for $10. I'll put a link in the description below in case you want to try this as well. But I'm going to put 2 bearings on each side for a total of 4 bearings, and that's a total of $4 invested in this rebuild. I don't expect this to last forever, but for $4, what am I out trying? So I'm going to press these in using what I had provided a drawing for in the last video, and that's this custom bushing. So I ended up making 2 of these so that I could really easily press these bearings in. So the material for this also cost about $5, but I can use this over and over and over. So I made these on a lathe, and I will provide a link to some aluminum stock that you can just buy if you want to make these more easily. That's already in tubular form. Bearing fit up is really, really important in critical applications. I would not consider this a super critical application. So if the bearings fit a little bit loose or a little bit tight, I'm just going to roll with it and see what the finished product looks like after I get it all pressed together. So we'll press these bearings in 2 stages. First, we'll press in the first layer, and then we'll stack another layer on top of those bearings. So we're going to put one of our bushings on the base of the press, and we are going to put another bearing on top of that. But I'm actually going to first slip this one on, because this end of the shaft that had the most pitting actually shrunk a little bit due to that pitting, and so the bearing is essentially a slip fit on the end of that shaft, which is not ideal, but I'm willing to take a chance on it. Again, this is meant to be a $5 rebuild with no re-engineering. If a little bit of bearing compound would be great on that, but I do not have any handy at the moment. And then I'll actually set the triple roller body on top of that and just make sure that you don't have any chunks of dirt in there or anything. I have cleaned these parts a fair amount, so I can feel that bearing is already starting to go in. And then I'll grab another $1 bearing and set it like so. And then we'll put our second bushing on top of there. In my case, because the ram on my press is so small, I need something else to set on top of this bushing for that ram to press against, so that it doesn't just go down the center of the bushing. So I've got a piece of aluminum angle iron here. This is just a piece of scrap. Let's go ahead and start pumping. See that? Went in pretty easily so far. Okay, it feels like it bottomed out, and that looks good to me. It centered up well, and it spins nicely. So for the second layer of bearings, we still want to use our bushings. So I'm going to put a bearing on the bushing that goes on the bottom. This was the bottom. Well, I can basically push that in by hand almost all the way. Again, I would not consider this a critical application. Otherwise, I would be buying higher quality bearings and making sure that the fit up was tighter. I don't even need to rebuild this because I have already purchased new rollers, but I just want to try rebuilding it just to see how much life I can get out of it. For $5, I mean, really, why not? And there you go. So now this is loaded up with 4 bearings instead of the normal 2. The bearings do stick out. You can see they stick out farther than normal, but they do not stick out far enough to necessarily hit the frame. And so I'm willing to try it. Again, this is a $5 experiment, so I'm not really out much. Before I put this back into service, though, there is one more thing I need to do. And there we go. A 30-second poor man's rattle can paint job, and it sort of looks like a new roller. So what do you think? Will the $5 rebuild last a while, or will it just blow out immediately? You know, you just never know with these things. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a try, and for $5, I'm not out anything. So thanks for watching, and good luck on your projects.